What is going on, everybody? It is your host of Conversing Over Drinks, Cedric Turner, coming back with season 2, episode 1. I'm so happy to be back doing the show. We had to take a break because I got super busy at school. And so we had to take our break, but we are back, coming back, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear this episode because I feel like it's going to be a great episode. I have a new friend from the basketball community to the podcast, Mr. Andrew Heath, a former collegiate and pro basketball player. Played for Trinity Catholic in Stamford, Connecticut. Had an amazing record of 58-10 while he was in high school, which is crazy. Then after college, playing in China for the Beijing Panthers. Host of a great podcast called Ball2Books. I was on an episode earlier. If you guys want to check it out, I'm gonna have him leave all this information so you guys can listen to it. He's the head boys varsity coach at Drew High School in San Francisco, California, and I would like all of you to just welcome Andrew to the show, man. What's going on, bro?
Cedric, man, that was quite an introduction, bro. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm glad to return the favor.
Oh yeah, man, it was great. Like our episode that we had together on your show was phenomenal. I was like, man, I gotta get this guy on my show. It was so much fun, man.
Yeah, all love, man, for sure.
Oh yeah. So, man, we're talking about basketball, so we got to know, man, how did you fall in love with the game of basketball?
It's funny. I was having this conversation actually with one of my players recently, and I think it at first, honestly, it just starts out. It's just like a social thing, right? I think, like, at least for me growing up, I played a whole bunch of sports. I played basketball, Pop Warner football, soccer. Tried some other sports I wasn't good at, like baseball and stuff. But I think initially, man, it just starts off your parents trying to put you in something, you're having a good time, and then I think for me, I think I was just a naturally athletic kid. Right, I was pretty fast. I could jump decently. Um, so I think, okay, cool. Not only is this a social thing, but I seem to have like a decent skill set, or I seem to be good at it. So then I think you just start feeling good about yourself. But I think the first time I fell in love with it, my mom's side of the family's from Indiana. So I grew up Pacers fan when like Reggie Miller was on the team and stuff. So I think those teams I fell in love with, and that's when he had his run against the Knicks, like the 9 points in 9 seconds, and then a shot against Jordan later in the 90s, and then unfortunately when they lost in the finals to the Lakers and Kobe and Shaq. But I think the whole time period I was just falling in love with the NBA, falling in love with Reggie Miller and the Pacers, and then I think too that was a good time for two guards, like shooting guards and wings. So at that time, I was definitely modeling my game after like all the shooting guards. So you had like Reggie, Allen Houston, you like Milwaukee Bucks, Ray Allen, Vince Carter, T Max, like all those guys. I was like, oh, I think I ended up being like 6'2" on a good day. But 10-year-old me is like, oh, I'm gonna be 6'6" one day. I'm gonna be short. So
Heck yeah.
yeah, I think it was that time period that I just started to like fall in love with the game and the process. And then just kind of stuck with me the rest of my life.
Man, that was a great era for basketball. Like it started out with the era of the big man. Like everybody needed a big man. Everybody wanted a big man. That was the first thing you drafted. You drafted a big guy, and then this little guy from Indiana came along by the name of Isaiah Thomas. They were like, maybe we can win with a guard. And then there was another little guy that came in by the name of Michael Jeffrey Jordan. They were like, oh. they were like, so maybe we can win with a guard. And then you saw it become guard heavy. And it is, and now like I tell my players where we used to talk about, I was like, guys, basketball grows and the position changes every year. I was like, every time, because it started out you needed a big to win championships. And then it was, now let's get a guard, a dominant two guard that can score and play defense to win championships. Now it's the small forward position. The small forward position is stacked. Like it is just small forward, small forward, small forward. It is stacked now. And it is slowly transitioning to the PG position. Because now everybody's looking for the point guard. They're looking for the point guard that can do everything, that can be flashy, that can give you 20, but also give you 10. And so the game is changing so much. And so to hear that you fell in love with it with one of my favorite players of all time, Reggie Miller,
Yeah.
That's great to hear, man. But we have very different basketball careers growing up. I played in the South. I played
Yeah.
I played in the South, in the Midwest, Oklahoma. So I was playing in states like Kansas and Arkansas and Texas and Louisiana. And we were like, I always tell my buddies, I'm like, if you want to look at a great basketball player, they come from the East Coast.
Hmm.
Basketball comes from the East Coast. I don't know any player that is Hall of Fame or even top 10 that's not from the East Coast. I really don't. Like it's hard to find a player outside of the East Coast that's very good. So playing technically on the East Coast, but in Connecticut, what do you think your difference was between your style of play and when you got introduced to guys that played from maybe the South or the West Coast or the Midwest, those type of areas?
Yeah. I think the main thing, especially growing up in Connecticut, so it's like the part of Connecticut I grew up in too was close to New York City. So grew up playing against a lot of kids from like the city and the Bronx and Harlem and the also like the New Jersey area too. Um, I think the main thing is like we like compared to like some parts of the South and even now living out in California, we had seasons. So like
Yeah.
we couldn't play outside year round, right? So like the kids here, if they can't find a court, they can just go to a local park, and on most days the weather's good enough to like play ball or get up shots or whatever else.
Yeah.
Um, so there were some times where it did feel like sports were very seasonal, right? So football is definitely this season, basketball is definitely this season, baseball definitely this season. So I think that's like the main thing I noticed, especially living out here, where you can play whatever sport you want to, especially in California, year round.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was definitely if it was January, February, December, November in Connecticut, and you couldn't find a gym or the gym's being used, well, you're not playing basketball because there's like a foot of snow outside or it's too
Oh yeah.
cold to do whatever. And I know everyone's got the story of how so and so like shoved shoveled the snow off the driveway, but it's just too cold some days, man, to be out
Man.
there.
Like, and I understand that too, because I was like in Oklahoma, like from August till January, it was football. It was
Mhm.
nothing but football. Um, Basketball season has started, but it wasn't as big. Like basketball season starts kind of in November, and so you're kind of like people are coming to the games, but they're still thinking and talking about football.
Yeah.
Uh, and then February till about March or April, it was basketball season. And
Yeah.
then we creeped into baseball for the entire summer. And I couldn't stand baseball. I thought it was the most boring sport ever. So I always ran track.
Yeah.
One of my buddies had to hit me with that. He was like, "You thought baseball was boring, so you ran track?" And I was and he's like, "How's that not just as boring?" I was like, "Because I could control everything, man." I was like, I
Right.
only had to do two things. I was like, I
Yeah.
ran relays and I ran a straight line. I was like, outside of that, I was just taking naps and trying to flirt with girls. It's high school. I was like, what? I was
That's
like, what are you
basically
talking
what
about?
track meets are, man. You just run your race and you got like hours to just socialize and talk to
Yeah.
people.
I was
So
like, that's all we was doing, man. But yeah, the seasons, it was so different because when I started playing against guys from the East Coast, there's two big things I really noticed about their game. They had really tight handles
mhm.
and they loved going to the rim.
Yeah.
They were finishers, they were finesse guys, and they couldn't shoot a lick. And like it was crazy to me because I was like, man, I was like, East Coast guys cannot shoot. And then when I played against West Coast guys were super soft. They didn't like any type of contact, but they would shoot the lights out. And it's like, okay. I always felt like the Midwest had really good all around players because we
Mhm.
had areas where, like in Texas, in some areas of Texas, you can play all year round. Like
Right.
the closer you are to Mexico, you can play all year round. Like San Antonio, Houston, those type of areas, you can play all year round. You don't really get too much snow.
Yeah.
It stays pretty well. Um, the higher up you get, Kansas and Indiana and Nebraska and all of, they're known for their basketball. So
Yeah.
If you ain't got somewhere to shoot, there's a gym open. And
Yeah.
so they're gonna do things like that. And then Oklahoma, we're a football state, but we got some really good players that came out of Oklahoma, and they were all around guys.
Yeah.
And it was such a weird thing to see the difference of. Like, I remember my buddy asked me, he was like, "Well, if you had to pick," and I was like, "I'm picking East Coast dudes because they're closer to a Southern player because they're tough." I was like, "I like tough
Mhm.
basketball players." I was like, "If you're soft, I can't really run with you. Like, that annoys me because if you keep calling little ticky tack fouls, even though we get the ball, I'm still gonna be annoyed." I'm like, "Come on, bro! Like, he barely touched you. Like,
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about?"
I think
Uh,
that those are the things definitely. I feel like it's funny too because I feel like those stereotypes are switching now. Where I feel like Cali's producing a lot of good players.
yeah.
But definitely growing up, the two things you said, it felt like everyone could dribble, everyone could get to the rack, and then I think a byproduct of that was because dudes were driving so much, it made people better defenders. So
Oh yeah.
I think guys, at least the guys I was playing against growing up, and that's also when like the Big East was like the Big East. So you had
Yeah.
like the big rivalries of like UConn, Syracuse, or like Georgetown, St. John's, and um, so I felt like you had like your typical like prototypical like New York guard, like you said, was tough, gritty, loved to get to the hole, and I felt like there was just like a swagger to just like the energy of like how
Oh
people
yeah.
sit on the court and stuff. So, and it's funny you mentioned that too, like calling foul. Like even to this day, even if I get fouled and I know it's a foul, I still don't call it if I'm playing pickup because I'm just like, growing up, man, you had to
Yeah.
like get tackled in the air or literally like no blood, no foul, like literally get up and be like, my wrist is bleeding. It's like, all right, cool. I guess we'll give you the call then. So
I guess you got fouled. Like,
yeah,
like, you could just fell on a rock. Who knows?
right.
But no, man, I completely get it because I mean, when I got older, people would always ask me like how I figured out how to shoot, and I was like, because I was little, man. I was like, I was little, I couldn't get to the rim. I was like, if I got to the rim, they would legit pick me up and set me back down. I was like, there was no fouls called. I couldn't do anything like that. I was
Yeah,
like, so I had to learn how to shoot. I was like,
yeah,
I was like, it's the only way I could score. That's the only way I was gonna get on the floor. I was like,
yeah,
so I had to learn how to shoot. But I also had to learn how to finish around the rim through all kinds of contacts. So like
yeah,
it was never something I called a foul on. Like, but I respected it. Like the older I got, the more I was just like, dude, I don't want to argue with y'all. Like we're playing pickup.
right,
Like I'm just trying to get a workout in. Like
yeah,
so
yeah,
like it became to where I was just like, you know what, man, take the ball, dude. Just take it. But there was a point in time when I was one of those guys that was just I would get on to you. We would get into arguments, and somebody from my team would have to come and get me, and I would just be like, "Yeah, whatever, man. Like this is stupid." But we both share a common reality of playing overseas.
Mhm,
You played in China. I played a little bit in the Dominican Republic. Played a little
yeah,
bit in Italy, and then even over here in Japan. Been playing with the guys here in Japan.
nice.
Um, what what was the biggest difference for you, like playing in China and adjusting to that?
I think the first thing is you don't get a lot of call. They were talking about fouls. You
Yeah,
don't get a lot of calls as a foreigner.
not at all.
So I have like a bunch of stories of a bunch of games. There was one game, ripped a guy clean steal. They call the foul on me, and I just have like a human reaction of just like what are you talking about? They kicked me out of the gym. Like forget like forget like out of the game. Like you have to leave the entire building. Uh,
Yeah,
Another game where it's a close game. We're up. I forget. We're up by like 2 or 1 or something. Um, we're on defense. Other team shoots it. There's like 4 or 5 seconds left in the game. Other team shoots a three, miss it. One of those like the ball gets tipped a bunch, like long rebound, gets passed back out. Their
yeah,
point guard gets it, swings the ball, corner guy hits a three, and they're like, "Oh, we won the game." But we're like, "No, like the time elapsed, like it's over, like you lost."
yeah,
They're like, "Oh no, like we won the game. He hit the three." So there's a dude that has like a replay of the situation, and the replay itself is like a 15-second video. So we're like, if there's only 5 seconds on the clock, but the video is 15 seconds, how is it possible he made it off in time? It's the same thing. It's just a foreigner complaining about it. So it was just like, no, the game's over. So I think I think it enhanced that if you wanted to win, you had to be on top of your stuff. If you wanted to get a call, you really had to make sure you got fouled. There really wasn't room for gray area. And then besides that, I also just thought at least in China, they love the sport and they love basketball. So I always felt there was just like a lot of love wherever I went or played. Sometimes we would go to like the countryside and play in these like second or like third tier cities where they may not see foreigner. I might be the first foreigner they've ever seen.
Yeah.
So it was definitely just always love, at least off the court. But sometimes during the games, it was just like, ref, like he obviously took 7 steps. Like you got to call that. But like, hey man, like my wrist is bleeding. Like you are supposed to call it foul. You know? But other than that, man, it was a dope experience.
Man, it was my time. That sounds great, man. That really does sound great. I get that completely because my time in the Dominican, we had a lot of those home cooking games. So that brings up memories for me. One of my hardest adjustments was getting used to the ball, though. Like the ball felt slicker than the one in the States. Like it took me a while to really get it to where I could grip it. And then another thing that got me, and it still gets me to this day. Like I have to tell a lot of our American coworkers when we go play basketball and we're just having fun. A lot of Japanese players that come with us and everything. When we shoot the ball, like when it rolls around, they'll knock it off the rim. And the first thing an American player is going to yell is goaltending. And I'm like, nah, that's not goaltending. I'm like, it's only goaltending in America. I was like, everywhere else in the world, that's a FIBA rule. I was like, you can knock it off the rim. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, man. I was like, trust me, I had to learn about that in the Dominican, and I had to learn about that when I was in Italy. I was like, it's a weird rule. I was like, but I wish that it didn't. There was another time where we were playing, somebody called 3 seconds in the key, and I was like, that doesn't exist. I was like, it doesn't exist overseas, man. I was like, you can stay in the paint as long as you want to, man. I was like, that's just an NBA rule. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, man. I was like, yeah. I was like, I get it. I was like, you're from the States, you're used to it, but that's not a rule over here. I was like, that's just us. So those were things that was super hard to get used to. Because I remember the first time I did that, I shot like a floater that kind of rolled around for a little bit, and then guy just came and snatched it off the rim, and I was like, "Wait, what the? Like, hold up!" Like, and they were like, "No, that's legal." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Okay." I was like, "That's wild."
There are those moments too, because in that scenario, you're the crazy one.
Yeah,
right. Like, you think you're making this valid point. Everyone's like, this dude, the new guy over here.
They're like foreigner over here. This kid, go back to America, buddy. It's like, what? Like, come on, man. I'm just trying to play ball. They're like, shut up, dude. But it was always fun, man. It was, and also I've told my friends that I love the way they treat athletes out here. I told them, I was like, bro, I'm like, this. If you're trying to get into this to be famous overseas, it ain't gonna happen. I was like, they treat you like a regular person, dude. I was like, you're just somebody that plays basketball. And I was like, that's how it should be. That's how it should be, man. I was like, I can't stand America's glorification of athletes. It has come with age, because I remember we both remember when we were that age, that's what you wanted. You wanted everything that came with the package of being a professional athlete. You wanted the money, you wanted the fame, you wanted the girls going crazy every time you see it. But when you get older and you start to really like dissect it and look at it, you're like, bro, you get paid millions to play a children's game. Like a children's game. Like you get paid millions to do it. And like, I'm not gonna treat you like you're God's gift to the world. Like you're just an athlete. Like there's a lot of athletes, man. And so it's very cool and humbling to see it in foreign countries where they're just like, they'll see an athlete walk by and they're like, oh, hey, what's up? They're just like,
Yeah.
oh, hey. And they'll just keep
Now,
going. Like, no pictures, no nothing. They're just like, hey, all right, go about my day.
yeah.
And that is so great, man. I loved it. So, getting into our next question, man. This was a hard transition for me. So I want to understand your transition from going from being an active player to
Mhm.
coaching.
Yeah.
Like that transition, that was hard for me. It took me about 2 years to really get to the point where I've grew as a coach. So
Mhm.
I want to understand your transition from going from an active player to okay, now I have to coach this team.
Yeah. No, I think I think the main thing is, I think especially if you go from like coaching at a certain level and then you go coach down like at the like a beginner level or middle school or high school. So I think even now still, so this is, I just finished up my third year coaching at a Drew school. Um, I still have moments where I have to catch myself and go like, oh, like, well, why can't you do this? Or why aren't you like one of them, I think I even brought it up to the team this year. I was like, oh, I think you guys jump from too close on your layups. Like you can jump from further out. And then I was like, oh, maybe they just can't do, like maybe they just physically can't jump from further out. Like
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
I'm asking them to do something they just physically can't do.
yeah.
Um, so I think there's just, because I think a lot of times you can have good drills, you can have X's and O's, but I do think there is that like player mentality or vantage point where you're like, oh well, why didn't you dive on the floor, or why didn't you get the loose ball, or why aren't you knocking down this open three more consistently, or why aren't you jumping from further out? Um, and those little intangibles are obviously like what gave us opportunities to play at a good high school, to play in
Yeah.
college, to play overseas. Um, so I think that's the main thing. Um, and then I think I've done a decent job at it, but I do think it is realizing that like this is their journey now,
Yeah.
and now as a coach, our our lifespan as a coach is much longer than our lifespan as a player.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh
if I coach from now for the next 40 years, right? That's a much longer time period than like the 15 years I was playing, like including like the ages of 12, 13 up until like I was 30. It's like my coaching time is much longer than my playing time. And especially if you're just coaching like at the high school level or whatever else, you might have ideally you have a kid for 4 years, but most of the time you have like a junior for 2 years or a sophomore for 3 years.
yeah.
So understanding that like you have these kids for a short period of time, they might just be playing basketball just for fun. They may not have this like lifelong journey with the sport of the game.
Yeah.
Um, so I think a lot of times I think the hard part for me was realizing that not everyone has the same relationship with basketball that I have,
Yeah.
right? And so even though I might be the coach and I might want to win a championship and I might want to do all this other stuff, if the kids don't want to do that, or if the kids just like, hey coach, I love you, I think you're a great coach, I love playing for you, but I'm not gonna lie to you, the second I graduate high school, I ain't picking up a ball again. It's
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
just a different dynamic and relationship.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but I always think like if you played or you love playing, you like never lose that competitiveness and that hunger. And I think Father Time, at least for me, has like humbled me in moments where like, hey man, you
Oh
can't,
yeah.
you can't, you can't, you can't
Yeah.
get down like you used to. So let's go,
Nah.
let's go to the sidelines and teach a little bit.
Yeah. My like those are all great points. Those are all really good points. It's a lot of stuff I experienced when I got into coaching as well. The big thing that I always caught myself doing that I knew I had to stop doing was I would say this phrase all the time. I would say when I was your age, I would say that all the time. And I was sitting in my office one day and I was just watching film and I was I'd always record practices just so we can go back and I can show kids like what they were doing in practice.
Yeah.
Um, so the audio is on, and I hear myself say that, and I was like, okay, let me continue watching. I said that thing 20 times at practice.
Oh wow, that's
And
a
we
lot.
were like, and we practiced only an hour, and I said it 20 times. I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, I got to stop saying that. I was like, I got to understand that they're not the athlete that I was at that age.
right.
They don't have that same passion that I did at that age.
Yeah,
They, I was like, I have to instill that into them. Like I have to
yeah,
teach them how to love the game and how to have fun with the game.
yeah,
And so that's when a lot of my coaching philosophy changed. Like first I came in as this drill sergeant. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this, that, that. We're gonna get it done. Came
yeah,
in like that. I had to get humbled, talk to talk to some predecessors of mine and talk to some people that I understood the game and learned the game from. And they were like, man, you got to come in and think of it very differently because I came in at first thinking of them as just players. I was like,
hmm,
okay. I was like, these are my players. I would always that's how I would say it. I was like, this is our team. These are my players. I always say that. When I really and I had success with them.
yeah,
I don't think they liked me, but I had success with them. Uh, when I started to have real success and my teams really started to like me. They hated me during practice. They hated me during the season, but they
yeah,
loved me afterwards because
yeah,
they knew I was just doing a thing to get us there.
yeah,
Is when my mentality switched from those are my players to those are my kids, or those
yeah,
are my boys, or
yeah,
those are my girls.
yeah,
Like it was like they were part of my family now. Like
yeah,
I let them know I would go to war for them,
yeah,
and they would run through a wall for me.
yeah,
And it went to the point to I always told them the same thing every time we played a game. Like at the end of every game, if we won, I would tell them, "Hey guys, we won! Congratulations! Go celebrate it. Go have fun. Sleep on it. Tomorrow it's done. We're back to being 0-0.
yeah,
If we lost, I told them, I'm like, hey guys, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. We lost the game. If your parents got anything to say, tell them coach sucks. I was like, coach. I was like, tell them coach can take that. I can take
yeah,
that. I can take a parent coming in being pissed off at me and wanting to say something.
yeah,
I don't want them going home and having to hear a parent chew them out for their thinking.
right.
Like I
Yeah,
don't want. I didn't want them to go through that. So I was like, hey, tell them. I'm like, hey, if you're driving down the road and your dad's like, the hell happened? I'm like, just be honest. Be like, hey, coach sucks. All right. It's like, coach sucks. He was calling some bad plays. He should have played me, you know? I was like,
yeah,
playing me only 30 seconds is ridiculous. Like, he should have played me. I would have hit 5 threes in a row. I was like, he sucks. So I was like, let him know. I was like, because I'll take that. Like, I have no
yeah,
problem with that. But that was when I really learned how to take care of the game and take care of the kids. Like, it
yeah,
was I never wanted to be a manager of the sport. I wanted to teach the sport. And it became so much more fun when I started doing that. And me being an introverted person, I was always still kind of standoffish. So they knew like not to approach me in certain ways. But they also knew that I would joke around with them. I would crack jokes with them. We would have fun. And if anybody said anything about them, it was going to be it was going to be something else because they had seen me flip out on a few people on tournament games where they would say something. They were like, "Well, if that
yeah,
team," I'm like, "Hey man, y'all need to shut up. All right, worry about your. Don't worry about mine. Worry about you." Like, and so like it was always fun that way, man. And I would always come in every season and ask my teams the same question. I'm like, "What do you want to do this year?" All right, what do you want to do this year? If you want to be a team that just goes out there, has fun, waves at the girls, win a game here and there, but just have
yeah,
fun and do your thing, that's how I'm gonna coach you. Like, that's how I'm gonna coach you. We're just gonna have fun drills and we're gonna be that team that gets stomped in the dirt every time we step on the court. But
yeah,
it's what you want.
yeah,
I was like, but if you want to be a good team and you want to win and you want to push guys and you want teams to hate to play you because they're like, oh man, it's gonna be a tough game every time we go see them. I was like, let me know because I could build you into that too. And so it became a lot more fun. I think it's why I miss it so much.
yeah,
Being out here in Japan is because I just miss the connection I had with my kids. Like I miss I miss that. I miss being on the court with them. I miss seeing that. I miss seeing their growth. And so it's something I really want to get back to. But this is something that I never did. Like I people have told me I should do it, but it's just something I've never really taken time into doing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? Like, how do you feel about, because you do a lot of skill training. So what's the
Mm-hmm.
difference between doing like 101 or 102 or skill training versus coaching? Because I've always been more comfortable coaching a team more
Yeah.
than I am spending time with just one person.
Yeah. I think if you do both, it helps out the other.
Yeah,
So I think coaching a team helps you become a better skill coach. I think doing skill session, individual sessions helps you coach a team. So I think too many guys, I think too many like team coaches knock the skill trainers. So like, oh, who's teaching you this? Why are they teaching you this move or whatever? And then I think some skill trainers are like, well, we need to give you this bag. Like if the coach tells you this, just do this move and prove the coach wrong, whatever
yeah,
else. But I do think there is a happy medium. So now for my like skill and individual sessions, I ask for like, do you have game film? Do you have game footage?
yeah,
Um, can you tell me what offense you? I ask a whole bunch of questions before I just go. All right, let's just go out here, put you through some ball handling stuff, put you through some shooting drills. It's like, no, like, where do you usually catch the ball? Where do you use? How many shots a game do you take? Right,
yeah,
like if you only take 8 shots in the game and they're just like offensive rebounds, we're not going to work on like your combination move into a pull up. Like
yeah,
that's obviously not what you're doing. Um, but no, I do think, especially now with where the game's going, guys, we kind of like talked about earlier and on our last conversation, players are more skilled. So
yeah,
I do think you do have to work on your game. I think when we were growing up, you did it a lot by yourself and you did it just in the park with like your boys or like a family member.
yeah,
Now you do have people like myself, or you might get into it where it's like, oh yeah, like I will help you work on your individual game for X amount of hours a week to help you prepare for whatever you need.
yeah,
Um, but I do think there is a fine line of, I think, especially once you get into it, because I'm assuming, right, you want to do it for some sort of a financial reward, right, or benefit, right? Hey, like I'm
yeah,
training, I'm trying to get some cash. So like, what's the fine line of I want to please the customer? Okay, you're coming to me for a service, so if you're going to pay me this money and you say you want to work on a James Harden step back, I'm like, all right, do I do that, or do I risk like losing a client because I'm like, well, that's not going to work in the game. So
yeah,
let's do that. So I've seen guys go through it. I've been through it myself
yeah,
where I've lost customers, I lost clients because I'm like, hey man, I'm not going to work on this with you,
yeah,
or it's like, oh, okay, like we've been working together for 15 sessions. You want to work on this thing? It's all right. Yeah, let's spend 20 minutes on this move. Because you've proven you're a loyal customer. But no, man, I think the main thing is really dialing in on the fundamentals. And
yeah.
I think when you get real hoopers or people who are really trying to get better, that they do understand that.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
and a lot of times for anybody, any level, any position, it's like, can you do the basic things at a very high and efficient rate?
yeah,
So, can you catch and shoot? Can you shoot off the dribble? How's your handle? Okay, cool. You can do a combination move once. Let's get those reps up to see how many times you can do it in a minute or under duress.
yeah,
Uh, so no, I think the personal coach, personal trainer like industry has like boomed.
hmm,
Um, I do think there do needs to be like some sort of gatekeepers, or I know for like other countries you have to be certified to coach.
yeah,
In America, you can just start coaching.
yeah.
You
You
can
just,
just literally start an Instagram page, go to
yeah,
local park, get some cones, hand out some flyers, and
yeah,
you don't need any background. Um, so I think that's also where I'm a USA basketball certified coach. I help them run their clinics each summer. I attend different coaching clinics each summer just to keep improving my game. Watch a crap load of YouTube videos because I think you never stop learning. The game's always changing, and then I do think a lot of times trainers, kind of like what you were saying earlier, of like people only watch the NBA and they don't realize the nuances at different levels in different countries and whatnot. But also, like, if you only watch whoever your team is, the Mavericks, the Warriors, the Knicks, like, not everyone's Jalen Brunson, not everyone's Kyrie Irving, not everyone's Steph Curry. So, like,
no one is Luka.
The chances of you scoring like that or playing like that are very, very, very low.
Yeah.
And kind of like you were saying, if you watch, I think we're talking offline about it. If you're watching like March Madness or like the college game right now, Jay Wright, the old Villanova coach, was talking about the other day.
No.
If you are just a better college basketball player, you will beat these like blue bloods or like higher level ranked teams.
Yeah.
So like the kid from Oakland who beat Kentucky.
Yeah.
He just kind of said it. He's like, yeah, like, I'm not going to the NBA. These guys are going to be better pros than me. But any given night, I can beat these guys.
Yeah.
And he could do that because he is fundamentally sound like crazy, right? Pump fake, catch and shoot. He can do it all.
And it's just, he's so smart. Like, there was a play towards the end of the game. I was watching it with a friend, and I told him to play. I was like, if this guy is really as smart as I think he is, I was like, they are hugging him off of everything. I was like, so next time he touches the ball, he needs to just go straight up into a shot because he'll get fouled. Sure enough, he came off of a down screen, caught the ball, went straight up, and got hammered by the guy trying to get over the screen because they were hugging him so tight. And I was like, and it's a freshman. I was like, freshmen don't understand that you can't do that with someone who is an intelligent scorer. Like an intelligent shooter who is fundamentally sound, you can't hug them because as soon as they feel that, they're going to get you in foul trouble because they're just going to catch and go, and you don't have time to react. And it was just, I was just sitting there watching it, and I'm like, I said it to my buddy. I was like, bro, I love Calipari. I was like, I do. I was like, I've been to a lot of his camps, love the guy as a coach. I was like, either him and Kentucky need to move on or they need to have a different conversation because to just bringing in freshmen and thinking I'm going to go to the national championship every year with 4 or 5 freshmen, that ain't going to work no more.
Yeah.
And especially with NIL money, like it's definitely ain't going to work no more because the guys that know they're not going to play in the pros, they're going to stay in college and collect that check. Yeah. And if you're playing against older teams all the time, you're going to get beat up because I enjoy these young guys that think they can ball. But I told my buddy, I was like, bro, I was like, the elite team, the G Elite that plays in the G League, I was like, that should be a cautionary tale to 18 and 19-year-olds. I was like, because I was like, they're playing on a professional level and they're getting paid professional money and they're keeping their draft. I was like, but if you watch that team, they get beat down almost every game.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of individuals out there and they don't play as a team. And they're 18 and 19 playing against guys that are 25, 26, 27, still chasing a pro dream. And they're not going to be embarrassed. And so that team is just getting destroyed. Like, they haven't had a good season at all. They've had good players. They've never had a good season as a team. And so I tell guys all the time, I'm like, the guys, there's in my lifetime, there's only been one guy, maybe 2, that I've known have come in at 18 and 19 and have just been unstoppable. I was like, it was LeBron and Luka. I was like, that's it. I was like, that's all I know. I was like, well, maybe like, what about KG? I was like, KG took a couple years. I was like, KG took a couple years. Kobe took a couple years. They had to get used to that big boy. I was like, it's different. It's a very different game.
I think that with Cal too, I think when he was like when he had those like early Kentucky teams,
Yeah.
The one and done wasn't as like popular throughout the country, where like you still had like coaches like Coach K who are public about like I'm not a fan of one and done. So
Yeah.
Cal was literally getting like the cream of the crop high school talent. So he
Yeah.
would get the John Walls and the Anthony Davises and
Yeah.
all those guys. So his teams were solid. So now he's still getting like one and done kids, but it's not literally like the top 10 of the class. It's more like the top 30 or 40. And then to
Yeah.
your point, it's just like, yeah, you are nice, you are good, but you don't know how to like win. You don't know how to play as a team. So you get in these close games and it just turns into, well, I got to go into savior mode and do what I can. And then you got, like you're saying, you got this 24-year-old senior who's like, I've been doing this for 5 years, man.
Yeah.
This is a dub. So
Like we were watching North Carolina versus North Carolina State in the ACC championship. And I was texting my buddy back and forth, and I told him, I was like, hey, bro, I was like, I don't know. I was like, this is really like only the third or fourth time that I've watched RJ Davis. I was like, it's the third or fourth time I've watched RJ Davis. I was like, he's not a pro player. And he was like, what? I was like, he's not a pro. I was like, in that NC State game, he played very selfish basketball. Like I told him, I was like, bro, I've watched them go up and down the floor 3 times. It's touched his hands and never touched anybody else's. I was like, that's not how you beat a team like that. I was like, this team is exhausted. I was like, they played 5 games in 5 nights. They have 3 or 4 guys that are injured, and you're trying to play a half-court system with them with one guy dribbling the ball. Of course they're going to stay in the game. Like, what are you doing? Like, if you're moving, I was like, the times that North Carolina looked like they were going to run them off the floor, like the ball went and hit guys' hands 4 or 5 times. It was just quick, wide open shot. Quick, wide open shot. And it's because I always told my kids, I was like, guys, if you sit there and play one-on-one and let the defense just stand there, they're going to stop you every time. I was like, because I was like, they know what's coming. I was like, but if you make a defense move, I was like, there's not 5 guys on the court that are going to play fundamentally sound defense at one time. So if you make the ball move, there's going to be that one dude who's lazy. And he's going to be like, man, I ain't going over to help. And that's the dude that's going to be wide open for a shot. And so watching him play, I was like, yeah, man, I don't see him as a pro. I think he'll get drafted, but I don't think he'll be there for long. And it's just watching these young players, like, it's just, I don't know what's going on. Like I used to tell my players who played AAU ball, like, I was never a fan of AAU. I was a fan of it in the beginning when it was real coaches and they were really teaching kids how to play the game and just giving them extra time. I'm not a fan of it now because I know AAU coaches who were never successful in basketball, never played the game. And they're just using these kids and these parents to get endorsements and get money deals and all these other things. And I'm like, I can't stand it. Like, it's like what Gino said. It's like what Pop said. Like, the European player, the reason the European player has become so much better than the American player is because they actually practice the game. They're practicing the game, they're understanding the fundamentals, and they're playing the game the correct way. And it's something we're not seeing in young American players anymore because I think coaches are just looking for another way out.
Yeah. I think to your point too with the AAU stuff, it's a money grab even for like low level players too, where if you sign up for your like average AAU program now, they have like an A, B, C, and D team.
Yeah.
Where, like, when we were growing up, they had maybe 2 teams for like 12U.
Maybe.
Right? And if you didn't pick one of those 2 teams, you weren't playing AAU. That's just like what you try out next year, man. Like, that's what it was. Now it's like, hey, give us $4,000. We'll give your kid a team and a jersey. You practice twice a week, and we'll send you off to who knows what tournament. So
I was like, it was cutthroat when we played. Like, I remember telling one of them, I was like, bro, you remember getting cut from the team? I was like, they can't even do that no more. I was like, because of kids' feelings. Like, they can't even cut kids. So I was like, bro, I remember being cut from the team. I remember being in 6th grade and getting cut from the team. Like, it was like coach came in with the quickness, too. He didn't even, wasn't no sympathy in it at all. He was just like, hey, work on your game because you ain't playing with us this year. I was like, wait, hold up. Like, I'm like, for real? Like, there's people here. Like, why would you couldn't pull me to the side and say that? I was like, I turned around and looked, and like one girl had looked at me, was like this, and I was like, you just ruined that for me, man. I could have flipped the story. I could have said that I went in there and quit the team, but now everybody knows I'm trash. You did this to me. Like, why?
You're messing up my game, man.
I was like, oh my God. I was like, well, yeah, man, it's crazy. Oh man. So hey, before we end the episode, we gotta go into the final segment. I told you we were gonna talk about it. The top 10 greatest men and women, because I'm an equal opportunity person. So I'll let you choose who we start with. You want to start with the men or you want to start with the women?
Let's do ladies first.
Okay, well, give me your 10, man.
Yeah, so in no order. So I even wrote it down too.
You got it in order?
And not
okay. I was like, I have no order with my top 10 girls.
Yeah, and then it was tough too because I have some honorable mentions, but I got Diana Taurasi.
Okay.
Cheryl Swoops.
All right.
Cheryl Miller.
Yes, sir.
Cynthia Cooper.
Okay.
Candace Parker.
Ooh.
Maya Moore at 6.
Okay.
Sue Bird.
Yeah.
Lisa Leslie.
Okay.
Shamik Holtzclaw. She had that slam cover. She was wearing the New York jersey. And so this is where, so that's 9. So I have a 10, but I feel iffy about it. And then I got 2 honorable mentions. So I think it's always weird when you put someone in a category when they're still like very active, right? So they're some of those players like either just retired or like towards the end of their career. But I'm putting her on the list for now because I think when we look back, it's gonna be like, oh, like she did her thing. Caitlin Clark. Hear me out. It took me a lot to put her name down because if she's going to have the most points in college, men or women, right? So like, I personally have some issues with her. Just like her antics sometimes I think are a little much, but it's like, hey, you are dropping buckets. You have the most points ever in the sport of basketball in college for men or women, and then she's going to be drafted number 1. She's probably going to, even if she has like a mediocre NBA career, WNBA career, it's like you are arguably the best college player ever. And I've even been listening to like some other, I've been listening to like Cheryl Swoops and stuff, been like Cheryl Swoops came out and said like, oh, I would definitely cook her if I was playing against her, but like you got to give props where props is due, right? It's like, yo, like she's almost got what, like 4,000 or something points. It's like
she's past 4,000,
something like, right? It's up there. So
she's past 4,000.
It's that's that. But my honorable mention, because these next 2 players, Simone Augustus. I remember watching her when she was at LSU.
She was cold.
And that was the first, like, because I'm not gonna lie, right? When you're now as like an adult man, I'm like, okay, like if you're nice, you're nice. Like, I mean, women could definitely trash dudes. They get all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
She was at LSU, I think, when I was in like middle school or high school, and it's, like teenage me thinks like, oh man, like I could take anybody, I could take any girl. She was the first woman I saw play. Her crossover in college, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can guard that. So Simone Augustus and then Tamika Catchings, just another legend. So honestly, I was gonna put those 2 above Clark,
man,
but I was just like,
man,
it's just one of those. It's like for people, I personally like don't understand like LeBron hate at this point, right? Where it's like, hey, yo, like whatever your knock against him is,
Yeah.
whatever, if you don't think he's as efficient as Jordan or the ring argument or whatever it is, he got 40,000 and counting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, at some point, you just got to give him his due. So I'm iffy with the Clark, but I'm going to give it to her just because I'm like, you're gonna end your college career as the all-time leading scorer above all of those women I just named too, right?
Yeah.
Like every woman I just named, you're gonna have a better individual career than those people. So,
and that's completely fair.
yeah.
But like we'll talk about LeBron when we get to the guys.
Yeah.
My drawback with Caitlin Clark is when I look at basketball, I never look at it as an individual sport. I look at it as a team sport. And to be considered the greatest female basketball player in college without winning anything, it's hard for me to give you that. Like her first 2 years, Iowa was not good. They were not good. She was getting a lot of buckets, but they were trash. Last year, they made it to the national championship. They got beat by LSU. Like that's great. This year, they should have lost to West Virginia. West Virginia got a lot of home cooking in that game.
Yeah.
A lot of home cooking in that game. They should have lost to West Virginia. West Virginia outplayed them from the jump. Like it was never there was never a time in that game where I was like, Iowa got this.
Yeah. And to your point about your RJ Davis point, she did have some possessions in that game that's like, that's just bad. I will agree with that. Like that is just bad basketball. Some of the shots you're taking are like you are just looking off open teammates.
Yeah.
So
and that's what she's been allowed. That's what she's been allowed to do her whole time in Iowa. My other drawback on that is I don't remember any of us talking about Kelsey Plum like this when Kelsey Plum was destroying women's basketball. Kelsey Plum was destroying women's college basketball.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
And no one brought her name up.
That's a fair point.
No one did.
And they had the same number of national championships to your point as well.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero.
Fair point. That's actually a very good point.
Nobody brought her name up. Nobody. And I love Kelsey Plum to death. And her game has got so much better. And when we talk about, like, everybody was getting on Cheryl Swoops when she came out. She was like, well, Caitlin Clark won't do that in the WNBA. She won't score like that in the WNBA. And everybody was like, well, what are you talking about? Bro, Kelsey Plum, again, destroyed women's basketball. She didn't average double-digit points in the WNBA until her third season.
Yeah.
That's a different level. Like when you get up, when you're playing against girls who can actually play with you, they ain't gonna let you get away with stuff you did in college.
That was one of my holdbacks from putting her on the list because I was just like, because even watching the past couple of games, I'm like, oh, you're taking certain shots to, like you just said, you're just not gonna forget like being able to, like your teammates aren't gonna let you shoot that shot when you get to the W.
They're going to tell you to sit your ass down. Like they're going to be quick with it too.
Yeah.
And then my last drawback on that is that people hear me say this and they think that I'm just hating against. No, Clark is a great basketball player. What she's done for the game, the recognition she's brought to the game is Steph Curry-esque. Okay, because she's changed the game. People are tuning in to watch Iowa, which is weird. Nobody tunes in to watch Iowa. Nobody even wants to live in Iowa. So it's super weird that people are tuning in to watch them. But she's not even the best player in college basketball. The best player in college basketball is Paige Beckers. Paige Beckers is way better than Caitlin Clark. Like, and if we're talking just pure score, give it to Caitlin. That's Caitlin's area. That's
I'm a Juju fan myself, man. I personally think Juju's going to have a better career than Caitlin. But
Juju is the face. Juju
at this moment in time, just because Caitlin's older, like if basketball were to stop today, right now, it's like But
like Juju is the face. Like she's next up. Ain't nobody mess with Juju. She's super nice, but she's more like Paige Beckers than she is Clark, because Paige is she is a complete basketball player. She gonna lock you up. She gonna play the game the correct way. Like everybody talks about Clark's assist, and I'm like, bro, as much as I love Westbrook, a lot of his assists were always empty assists. And I always people were like, what do you mean by empty assists? I was like, I mean, he got 8 assists in the first quarter and then didn't get the last 2 until the fourth. Like, or didn't get the last 2 until like the third quarter. That means that in the beginning of the game, he's just passing the ball just to get his numbers. And then the rest of the game, he's playing his game, which doesn't involve any passing. And that's where Clark is at. Clark is, she gets her assist super early, and then she's not passing the ball anymore. She's looking for her shot, and they're looking for her shot, and she shoots the ball a lot. But I like her. She's going to be very good in the WNBA. She's not going to be what everybody thinks she's going to be, because she's going to have to play against real players. And there's a lot of girls in the WNBA. There's a lot of women in the WNBA guards that would shut down most college men guards. Like it's another level. Like every time you go up, it's another level. But yeah, I'll give you my 10, and I'm super annoyed that my first one wasn't on your list. Like that irks
Who is it?
Irks me to my heart. Cheryl Miller.
I said Cheryl Miller.
Did you say Cheryl?
Yeah,
I said okay.
After Cheryl swoops,
yeah, I was like, Cheryl Miller is the greatest women's basketball player ever.
She's the only female player, like when I hear talked about by like her like counterparts or peers or just like old time men hoopers, they're like she was the best. Like I don't hear like current male hoopers talk about like their contemporaries the same way like the players from the 90s and the 80s talk about Cheryl. Like the way they talk about Cheryl is like she was the god of women's basketball.
Goddess.
Yeah, goddess.
Goddess. Because she was ridiculous. Like it still brings me back to the Reggie story when they're driving home and Reggie's like, hey, I got to start tonight. And they're like, oh yeah, that's what's up. And he's like, I dropped 40. They're like, oh, for real? What's up, man? That was a good game. And then he's all like, Cheryl, what'd you do? Oh, I had 108. 108. Like what? Like, bro, like you can't walk in your house with she there. Like it's just like, bro. Like, and when you're as good as Reggie Miller was, and they would call you Cheryl. They're like, Cheryl. Cheryl. That's how great she was. Like Cheryl Miller is she's on her own mountain, and there are other women. Like to me, I put her in the same, like the aura that I put MJ in is what I put Cheryl in. Like they're in that echelon where like it's just hard to touch them. It's just so hard. So Cheryl Miller, Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Maya Moore, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, Tamika Catchin.
Okay.
And I'm mad about this one too. How you ain't got Lauren Jackson on there?
Oh man, I'm taking Simone Augustus. Lauren Jackson's resume is crazy. I will give you that. My resume is crazy, but I'm taking Simone or Tamika over Lauren. Her resume is crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Lauren Jackson was a stud among studs. Seattle, she made Seattle Storm. Like there's no Seattle Storm without Lauren Jackson. She was crazy. Cynthia Cooper. And then I got to give love to one of the first to do it. One of the best ever that people don't talk about enough and sleep on a lot. Lucia Harris. Lucia Harris. She played for Delta State University. She was the first woman to ever be drafted by an NBA team.
Oh yeah,
drafted by the Jazz.
With her story.
Yeah, she played for Delta State University back in '77. And she was a phenomenal basketball player. 6'3". She played center. She was so dominant, like just great. And there's some honorable mentions for me. Was I got to give love to one of my homegirls. We actually grew up together, man. I see her from time to time when I'm back in the States. Angel Goodrich. Goodrich. Yeah, that was one of my girls, man. She went to Sequoia Tahlequah while I was at Oaks. So we was like 30 minutes apart. And what she did at Sequoia Tahlequah still has an effect there in that area. Like the women's game there is so big because of her, and I don't think she gets enough recognition for how much she changed basketball in the state of Oklahoma for women players. Like she, especially in that area, like she's such a influential person in that area. And then she went to Kansas and just shattered records. She's the all-time leading assist record, and just I think she could have done better in the pros, but I think she just started to fall out of love with the game. But yeah, Angel was one of those girls where it was like, I don't know if I can play with her. Like she was that cold. But then I also had to realize that she's like 5'5" and I'm 6 foot. So it's like, so it's like, yeah, she nice. I'm still gonna get my dub though. And if she hear this, she probably gonna get pissed off at me and trying to get that dub back. But but all right, man. Let's get to the men's side, man. I'm still hot about the Clark thing. Like, yeah.
Dude, hey man, hey, she got the points. This same thing in no order.
Yeah.
LeBron, MJ, Kareem, Duncan, Kobe, Shaq, Magic, Bird, Russell, and I got Steph at 10.
Yeah, Steph in there. Okay.
Yeah. Steph, same thing. He would like fringe. I sat on that one for a little bit.
Yeah.
He does. He has 4, right? He's got 4.
Got 4. Two of them kind of don't exist to me, but he's got 4.
Yeah, right. He's got 4. Change the game for better or worse. Yeah, I mean, you can argue with either way, but he definitely did influence the out of the game.
Yeah,
so he's my number 10. There were definitely some guys I was considering switching for him, but that's my 10 in no order.
Okay, that's what's up. Yeah. Now Steph, like, if we were talking most influential players to ever play the game, he's on the Mount Rushmore. Like,
yeah,
it's going to be Magic and Bird. They're going to get one head to themselves because I consider them a unit. But Magic and Bird saved the NBA. Like, there's no NBA without Magic and Bird. Michael made the game global. Like, he made it such a global icon. AI changed everything about the game. Tattoos, hair, little guards being able to score like he did, like, and then Steph, like, and people get mad at me because they're like, "Well, what's the?" I was like, LeBron didn't change the game. Like, LeBron just came in and dominated. Like, Steph changed. I was like, nobody came in and was like, "Hey, I want to play like LeBron." Nobody thought about that. I was like, people were like, "Hey, I can play like Steph." Like, and I was like, that's influence. Like, I was like, people understood LeBron was just a physical gift. Like, 6'8", 240 doesn't walk around all the time. But, but like 6'2", 6'3", like 180, that's a normal dude. Like, and so like that's more obtainable. It is. It's crazy. And I get it with Steph. Like, Steph has cracked a lot of people's top 10. But again, when I look at basketball, I look at the team success, but I also look at it being a two-way sport. Like, you got to play both ends of the floor for me. And Steph is such a great offensive player, but
never been a defensive guy for sure.
Never been that guy. Like, even when we talk about LeBron had a few years when he was in Miami where he was clearly the best defensive player in basketball. It just didn't get the votes because, like, for the life of me, I will never understand why they took the voting out of the players' hands and gave it to the media, because the media is just like, it cracks me up. Like Kareem had won 5 MVPs. No, 6. He won 6 MVPs with the players voting. When the media took over, never won MVP again.
Yeah.
And I was like, it annoys me because the media, especially when the media is a whole bunch of people that have never played basketball. Like,
Yeah.
come on, like just because you watch the game don't mean you understand the game. Like, get out of here. But my 10, no order, but my 10, MJ, Kobe, Braun, Duncan, Hakeem. I got Hakeem in there. Kareem, Bird, Magic, Shaq, and Wilt.
Yeah.
I
Akeem and Wilt were the 2 guys I was considering switching out with Steph.
Yeah, like Hakeem, like I don't think anybody gives Hakeem the love that he deserves, man.
Yeah.
Like that Houston, the Slamma Jamma team he was on in Houston, with him and Clyde, and then he stayed in Houston with the Rockets and made them relevant when they had never been relevant. And then there was nothing Hakeem couldn't do. He had the footwork. He had the footwork of a guard playing post. 6'11", 7 foot, and like could lock anybody up. Like Shaq talks about it to this day, how much he hated playing against Hakeem. He was like, bro, like, and it's crazy because like, and then Wilt being on there over Russell, that was hard for me because Russell, like Wilt is the individual that I put on there because it's just hard to sleep on Wilt's dominance. Like he's got 2 rings, could have had a lot more if he was a team player.
Yeah.
But like his dominance, like it just terrifying freakness. Like, how do you be 7 foot running track at Kansas and winning?
Doing high jump, all that stuff.
Well, I'm like 7 foot running the 100-meter dash and winning. Like, how? Like, I'll be terrified. That's like a giraffe running at you at 10.8 seconds. You like, hold up, calm down. Like, I was like, Wilt was, oh my God, he was a freak.
And I hate the knock he gets. Yes, a different era. Yes, there weren't as many athletes back then.
Yeah.
But he still had to do it, which I don't think people like give credit for.
And like still had to go out and play. Still got to go out and play.
Like he averaged like 40 points. He averaged 20. He didn't get that like a one. That was his season average.
Every night, man.
Yeah.
Every night. And then like the thing that cracks me up is like people were like, man, yeah. I was like, bro, even if you want to use that discussion, he played against who is arguably, some people say Russell is arguably the greatest defensive center to ever play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
That's what some people say. Bill Russell is the greatest defensive center to ever play basketball. He destroyed Bill every damn time they played. Like, Bill's team would win, but his numbers, if you look it up, his numbers against Bill Russell was 35 and 22.
Yeah.
35 and 22 against the guy that y'all said is the greatest defensive center of that era.
Yeah.
This fool destroyed him every time they played. No, Wilt was another. He was a monster, man. A monster. And I'm not going to lie to you, bro. Like, I've never been a LeBron hater. I think I've just I haven't liked the way that he's wasted his gifts. If I can say that. Like, because I feel like he should have been the first one to average a triple-double for the season. Like, he never seemed to like play with all of it because he didn't want to outshine like everybody else. He was so much about the team. He didn't want to outshine everybody else. But like he does things that were annoying to me as a younger guy and still kind of annoying to me as an older guy because like I see it in younger players now. He didn't take things as important as somebody with his physical size should have. Like LeBron has never averaged double-digit rebounds, ever. Just never done it. Like Larry Bird could barely jump off the floor, average double-digit rebounds for his career.
Yeah.
His career. Could never jump off the floor, average double-digit rebounds for his career. Like, and still put up just as many as assists as LeBron. statistically for career and scored just as many points. And so, like, when I would tell people I had Larry over LeBron for a long time, they were like, "Man, you're just being a hater." I'm like, "No, bro." I was like, I respect what Larry Bird did. I was like, I don't think y'all understand how good Larry Bird was, man. I was like,
he was, yeah, no, he was that dude.
I was like,
But
Larry
it's
Bird.
hard now with LeBron
Yeah,
now at this point. It's like, all right,
yeah. Like I
yeah,
put him over Larry since then.
yeah,
But like I was like, guys, I was like, bro, I was like, Larry Bird, the only white dude I know could walk into a room full of dudes from Atlanta or Washington D.C. and be like, "What up?" And they all be like, "Oh, what up, Larry?" I was like, "What? None of them say anything." They just be like, "What up, Larry?" I was like, "Only one." I was like,
yeah,
that's how much respect and clout he got with us. Like we
yeah,
love that fool.
yeah,
So, but it was like that's always been my knock against LeBron. I'm just like, and I see it now with young players that try to do this stuff. I can't stand that Zion averages 5 rebounds a game. I can't stand it.
yeah. That
Like,
one, yeah,
I can't stand it. I'm like, you're the most physically imposing player on the floor every time y'all play, and you average 5 rebounds, 6. Come
yeah.
on, man. That's just being lazy. That's just laziness.
I
Like,
remember that was Blake Griffin was a double machine, but I
yeah,
remember people used to get on him for like during his like prime,
yeah,
like how come you don't average more blocks?
yeah,
They're
and
like, dude, you're like a physical specimen.
you know,
You're literally jumping over people.
yeah,
Why do you average like less than 1 block per game? Like you should be averaging a block and a half, 2 per game with the way
yeah.
you play.
And
So
I couldn't get on to Blake for that because blocking is actually a skill. Like,
no, yeah, you
yeah,
need timing, you
being
need like
able to time it and like
instincts.
I was
Yeah,
like, because you can foul out of a lot of games trying to get blocks.
trying to block.
And yeah,
That's
and so like I could never get onto him for that. I I got on to big guys who didn't get rebounds because I'm like, that's just a hustle stat. Like a rebound is a hustle stat. Like that's a
yeah,
want to. Like you go get the rebound. Like you're bigger than everybody. Go get the rebound. Like
yeah,
that's why like I hated like I couldn't stand a lot of guys in the league. Like Cat couldn't stand it.
mhm,
AD, like I to this day, I still don't like AD. Like people get mad at me because I don't like AD, and I'm just like, I don't like him. Like I was like, and it's not a personal thing. It's just like I don't think he's that guy that you think he is.
yeah,
Because I was like, I was like, we have to remember those New Orleans teams that he had, and they couldn't win games. Like you can't be the best player on the floor and not win games when you're surrounded by talent. I was like, there was one year they had the team. It was AD, Tyreek Evans, Drew Holiday,
yeah,
Eric Gordon, and couldn't make the playoffs. I was like, how do you not make the playoffs with that roster? I was
yeah,
like, this is Tyreek coming off of being rookie of the year. This is Tyreek year 4 or 5. This is Drew Holiday year 4 or 5. This is Anthony Davis year 4 or 5. This is not young guys. These are guys that have been in the league for a minute, and he couldn't make it work. And I was like, I was like, I can't do it, bro. Like, you can't tell me he's an upper echelon because he got next to LeBron, who's
right,
who's dang near almost 40, been in the league 21 years, and he's still the best player on the floor.
yeah.
To me, I was like, that tells me right there, AD ain't that dude. Because I was like, I'm telling you right now, LeBron can't stand that he the best player on the team. He can't stand that.
Especially at this point, I think
Yeah,
you can see it too. It's not even. It's literally father time telling LeBron like, "Hey man, you can't be the dude tonight.
yeah.
Like someone else got to drop 30. It can't be you."
And he doesn't have that person. He
Yeah,
doesn't have that person because AD just I don't know what it is about him, but I can't stand it. And it's annoying. It's so annoying. But yeah, like Russell didn't make my list because uh like I get it, the titles and everything like that, but I look at my list and I go back to my East Coast, bringing the East Coast back into it. I go back to the streets, man. If you're at the park, who you picking? Like I'm
right.
picking all these guys before I pick Russell. Picking
Yeah,
all of them before I pick Russ.
yeah,
And I was like, I love Russell, but like I want a guy that's gonna give me both ends of the floor. And so like they're like, well, he's such a great defender. I got that in Hakeem. Well,
Right.
they're
And that's
like
the other
he's gonna
thing
get
too, like with those guys, like you got other dudes that can defend that are that big, that are that athletic.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I was like, and the only person on my team that now, I mean, everybody on my team is a two-way guy. Like the only person on my team that I wouldn't see as a two-way guy is Magic. But Magic played enough defense.
Yeah.
But
And he's just bigger too. Like at 6'9",
6'9",
you
stupid.
can make up for stuff with your length and your height. So
Yeah, man. But those were some great lists, man. Those were some good lists. Man, I hope when I send this to my stuff that they clip the Caitlin Clark thing because that was good stuff, man. But heck yeah, man. I loved having you on the episode, man. It was great stuff. So man, it was a great episode. Let me close out before we end the recording. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening to the episode, man. It has been Conversing Over Drinks with your host, Cedric Turner, and our guest today, Andrew Heath. Such a great episode, man. It was great talking to you. Love talking about basketball. It's always my first love. And talking about the list, man. I hope you guys listen to the episode, comment on the episode. The episode will be available everywhere, man. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, everywhere. YouTube clips, TikTok, Instagram Reels. I'm going to have it everywhere, man. You guys are going to be able to check it out. And you're also going to be able to check out Andrew's podcast, Ball2Books, because I'm going to have them tagged and everything. So if you don't listen to the link's going to be right there, man. You're just going to hit to his podcast, man. So thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a great episode. And like always, man, we out. Peace.
Peace.